Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the question is, why do I get sick so often? And this isn't just referring to me, but this is some helpful information that can be valuable to really anybody. And we're going to kind of talk about the immune system and some different factors playing into that. So lately I've had a few people ask me, why do you get sick so often if you're so healthy? Why do you get sick so much? Okay. So essentially there can be a lot of reasons for that. So when it comes to myself personally, there are different factors that can play into why it is you catch things, why it is you catch certain types of illnesses. So for me personally, I do tend to catch quite a few, particularly upper respiratory infections. Sometimes I get throat infections, aka pharyngitis. I tend to get bronchitis pretty frequently. So I would say, on average, I tend to get sick at least a few times a year. Okay, and by a few, I mean probably 3 to 4. If I'm really lucky, I might just get 3. But honestly, I mean, if I have a bad year, I can go all the way up to, probably 5 or 6 illnesses easy. I guess it was about 4 years ago. I went through a period of time in which I was under a whole lot of stress and I was just getting sick left and right. And my son at the time, he was only a year or two old, and he was constantly getting sick himself, building up his immunity, and therefore I was catching probably a good 60% of the illnesses that he was catching on top of my own illnesses. In that year, I actually had like hand, foot, mouth disease like 3 times. Because that particular illness, there are, I think, at least 3 or 4 strains of it. There might be more. And so once you catch a particular strain, you are immune to it, but there are all those strains to go through. So that was a very painful one. I do not tend to catch stomach viruses very often, but occasionally I will, especially if one of my kids comes down with one. So that's just me personally. I also do not have tonsils. I had a tonsillectomy when I was 20, so it was almost 10 years ago. And it is my personal belief and opinion that when you do not have that tonsillar tissue, which is part of your lymphatic system, and as a lot of us know, the lymphatic system has a whole lot to do with your immunity. So essentially, when you don't have that line of defense there through your tonsils, it's my opinion that you are more prone to getting chest infections, chest colds, bronchitis, even in some cases pneumonia. So whenever I get bronchitis, I try to catch it early. I do take antibiotics for me personally when I get sick with something like that. I have to function fully. I have small children. I run my own business. I have a huge responsibility on my shoulders. So whenever I get sick, I do go to the doctor and I do usually take antibiotics if I feel like I need them. So when it comes to my immunity, okay, so one, genetics plays a role. And for me personally, my dad tends to get sick rather frequently, especially with the same exact stuff that I tend to get sick with as well. So for me, that would kind of be like one of my main things. I would put this probably one of the major 2 reasons why I tend to get quite a few upper respiratory sinus infections. Okay, so secondly, stress, obviously. Here over the last few months, I've gone through something that's just so terrible. Oh my goodness. I mean, something that most people would like never ever go through or even like dream of going through. So high stress levels can definitely cause immunity disruptions. So that's something to obviously take into consideration. I do manage my stress really well. I take very, very good care of my health. I take a ton of supplements. I work out every day. I meditate every day. I do so much stuff. I eat super healthy, but at the end of the day, we do have to acknowledge that there's only so much that we can control, and there are always going to be some things that are not in our control, if that makes sense. So, something to take into consideration with people in general is that allergies ultimately can also lead to some types of upper respiratory infections, and sinus infections. So for me, this doesn't really apply because I just don't really have allergies. However, I have had this happen, particularly with ragweed and or mountain cedar. I've had it happen a few times, but it's not, fortunately, it's not something that happens a lot for me. I generally will just catch an illness, and I usually won't know where it came from unless it came from one of my kids. So another issue for a lot of people is just, I think with a lot of people, if they're experiencing low immunity, other than genetics and stress, it could obviously be so many different factors. People that have lifestyle issues such as lack of nutrition, lack of supplementation, lack of exercise, etc., all of these things, and most people have a lot of these different things combined working against them, against their immune systems. So, people, they tell me, they're like, I don't understand why you get sick so much. And, honestly, I don't either. But, I just have to do the best that I can. And fortunately for me, when I am sick, I am generally quite functional. Even though I might not feel well, I'm usually able to carry out my activities regardless. Unless, I have obviously a terrible, stomach virus or something like that, I wouldn't be able to. But in most cases, I try to just carry on as normally as possible. Try to limit going in public and limit any kind of, germ exposures if I'm contagious. So, all right, let's see. So we talked about stress, allergies, lack of nutrition, exercise, lifestyle factors affecting your immunity. So, if you drink a whole lot of alcohol, that can absolutely has been scientifically proven to lower your immune system. So, and I'm not really talking 1 or 2 drinks a day. I'm talking people that chronically consume quite a bit of alcohol. So, smoking is another thing. And that obviously would contribute more to kind of colds, bronchitis, that kind of thing, because that inflammation existing in your bronchial passages and all of that is just really unhealthy. So, but yeah, there are certain medications out there, certain types of prescription medications that can lower your immunity. And, on top of everything, one of the last things I will point out here is antibiotic usage. It's become a problem here. A lot of people take antibiotics all the time, and I'm guilty of taking quite a few, and that's just because I do not like to risk getting pneumonia. When I get bronchitis, I try to catch it really early. Like I said earlier in this video, I try to catch it and I take my medication so that I cannot develop pneumonia, because that can be very, very serious. And I'm just not the type of person that can afford to wind up in bed, bedridden or sick to the point that I just literally can't function for days on end, or, get hospitalized. So, antibiotics, in my opinion, I think if you really, really need them, I don't see a huge problem. But the main problem I see with antibiotics, quite honestly, is over time, it kills out your good bacteria. So, it can definitely cause, it can cause your immunity depletion, to be honest. With me personally, I have seen this a lot, and I've noticed a lot of unpleasant, side effects over time from antibiotic usage. So I try really hard not to take them, but I do still end up usually having to take them at least a few times a year. So not the best situation, but I count my blessings and I try to be thankful that I don't have any chronic health issues. And like I say, antibiotic usage can contribute to your immune system being lower over time, particularly if you take a lot of them. So obviously, how you can help yourself if you've taken antibiotics, even if it's just 1 round, or whether you're taking a whole lot of them, or maybe you're on some kind of regimen where you're taking a low dose daily antibiotic for whatever condition, for whatever reason, I would strongly recommend that you use probiotics, and not just so much in the form of food. Other than consuming yogurt, some people think, oh, well, I eat yogurt every day, so that counteracts it. But in reality, it's just not enough. I mean, that's great that you're doing that, but you want to not only eat things like yogurt and tempeh, and probiotic foods, but you want to also consume prebiotic foods like dark chocolate, cacao, things like green tea, apple cider vinegar, kombucha is a big one. Kombucha is one of my favorite drinks. We'll talk about that more in the future. So those are all the things you want to consume, but you also want to take a probiotic supplement. And some are more potent than others, but you can get acidophilus is one that I would strongly recommend. And you can get acidophilus tablets from most grocery stores. You can get these, and they're just in the regular supplement slash vitamin section of the store near the pharmacy. And you can just grab a bottle of that. And I think they're usually only about $8 or $9 from what I have seen here lately. So that's just something simple that you can do. But anytime you take a round of antibiotics, even if it's just one, you really do want to go and really just flood your body with probiotics and prebiotics. So that is what I do. I feel like it helps a lot. And I don't really necessarily believe that we can ever 100% undo the damage of antibiotic usage and, constant antibiotic usage, but I believe that we can absolutely do our best. So in a nutshell, these are the main points that I wanted to take on today. So when it comes to our immunity, the number one thing that really I can say to wrap this up is just do the best that you can. And that's really all you can do. Not everybody is super, super healthy all the time. I mean, I consider myself a healthy individual, and I may tend to get sick frequently, but I still consider myself healthy. And the truth is, here in this matrix, none of us are 100% healthy. None of us are completely spotless in our health. And it's just not the way it is. Unfortunately, our bodies are constantly bombarded with toxicity every day, which creates inflammation in the body, which creates every kind of problem that there is that you can have with your body. So there's pollution in the air, there's pollution in our food, our water, even if you're drinking filtered water, even if you're eating healthy, our bodies are just constantly bombarded, radiation, electromagnetic field everywhere. So chemtrails, etc., you name it. The list goes on and on and on. So stress management, help control your allergies to the best of your ability, preferably with natural remedies. Eat right, exercise, follow a natural, clean diet. Try to limit your antibiotic usage. Genetics can definitely play a role, so don't beat yourself up if for any reason you're having some immune system issues. Stimulating your lymphatic system is always a great idea. You can always go get a lymphatic massage, do some cryotherapy, do some natural treatments that will help you stay in balance as much as possible. And ultimately, just remember that there are things in life that we can't control. And for me, this is one of the things that I have not always been able to control, but I constantly strive and I constantly research and experiment with new things to help me out. So that's going to be it. Thank you for watching my video.